Is QE3 and what does it mean for Canada? Okay, QE3 is not happening here in Canada. It is happening in the United States. And what is happening is basically, okay, let's say, to keep it as simple as possible, you owe the bank $1, but you don't have that dollar. You need to make more. You need to print another dollar. So in order to print that dollar to pay back the bank, what you need to do is print a second one. But in order to print the second one, that dollar now becomes 50 cents value because it's taken down a peg. It's not worth as much. So you've got more money there to spread around, but it's worth less. And that's, I guess, maybe not a great explanation, but that's kind of how it's going to happen. But because you still need to pay off that first dollar, you need to print $2, which again, you can never get ahead of it. That's why it's a debt-based currency. So no matter how much you print, you can never take down the principal interest of the dollar that you bought, that you have to pay back in the first place. Plus, there's interest on top of that dollar. Arguably say 15 cents on every dollar. You can never, that 15 cents never gets to exist because every dollar you print, there's that much more on top of it. It's a debt-based currency designed to collapse purposely. So QE3, well, what is QE1? Well, QE1 is quantitative easing. Okay, what that means is, okay, their taxes can't cover their deficit, and they can't cover the bills to pay the government. Okay, taxes can't cover it, and the country's not producing enough. And when you have 47% of people on handouts and only 50% of the country not paying taxes, because they're too poor, or they're only paying like 2% tax or something like that, when you have the 1%ers are paying 30%. So when they say, well, the rich have to pay their fair share, yes, it's easy to hate rich people because they got more than you. It's called jealousy. But the thing is that they actually pay the majority of what's going on there. And all that's going to happen if you raise taxes on the rich is they leave the country. This is what France is dealing with. They raised the tax rate to something like 75%. Now all the rich people are leaving France, and guess what? So are the jobs. So you actually have to have lower taxes. What I say is just make it equal across the board. Oh yeah, but the people at the bottom, if everybody pays the same and you cap your government's expenditures, say you're not going to get any more money than this no matter what. This is what we got to live within, which like Canada's doing. And then, banks have to be accountable for bad mortgages like Canada's doing. I'm Canadian. That's why we're not into that same bad thing as the States. So QE1 devalues the dollars. They go from a 3 credit star rating to a 2 credit star rating. Okay, QE2 is, that's brings it down again. QE3, okay, guess what? That's what they just did to your dollar. You got QE3, which technically is like a QE4 because they did some other stuff in between that kind of works out like that. So why is this so bad? Well, okay, they got a $16 trillion deficit. If you were to stack a bill on top of bill in $1,000 bill, because that's the biggest denomination I think the Americans make, it would reach probably to the to the edge of outer space. It would be something like 4 stories high and 8 blocks long in skids and pallets. That much money does not exist on the planet. There's no way to ever pay that back. And they're not cutting any spending. In fact, they're increasing spending, and their tax revenue is going down. So this QE3 is like, okay, well, we can't pay the bills. We need to pay the bills, so let's devalue the dollar and pump more money into the economy. So they've done that. They're doing that, and this is the third time. Every time they do that, their money becomes more worthless. I remember when I was a kid, I used to wonder why a loaf of bread was 10,000 pesos in Mexico. That's hyperinflation. And for the Americans, say, well, there's no hyperinflation. Well, you see it at the pumps. You see it in the food. I mean, what isn't going up in price? Yes, hyperinflation is hitting, and it's hitting hard. I think it will hit extremely hard on this one. This means lost jobs, big time. This could be the final dunk of the American dollar. This is probably the death spiral for this thing. If not, it's just going to get worse because it has been getting worse. They've already tried QE1, QE2. Technically, we'll say this is QE4, but it's really QE3 in title. But it doesn't matter. Einstein's theory of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Problem is, Ben Bernanke can't admit he's wrong. They're like mad scientists. They just can't see logic and reason and say, well, no, my theory's right, my theory's right. No, it's not. It's failing. But it's done by design anyway, so I think he's very aware that the American economy is about to crash big time. So what does that mean for the world? Well, they're the biggest buyer of everybody. Like the United States does bigger trade with just about everybody, including China. That's why there's a slowdown in China. Now the Chinese have been trying to slow their dollar purposely, but it's a backfire. Why? Because they're a manufacturing only country. They buy raw resources and they sell them, and people are starting to become middle class there, and they're going to rise up over there anyway. That's, it's already starting to happen. So next couple of years for China, I think, is going to be wow. When the states collapse, their debt just goes up 10%. Because the Chinese own 10% of the American debt, and they're trying to offload that debt now before it crashes, but it won't matter. They can't do it fast enough. It's just too much. 10% of $16 trillion is just way too much. Nobody can offset that fast enough to recover from it without a major collapse. So what does that mean for Canada? Well, Canada does 80% trade with the United States. So that means when the United States catches a cold, we catch pneumonia. So that's going to be bad for us. Very, very, very bad. It will translate into lost jobs. Yes, our Prime Minister's got 90 countries to do trade with. Stuff like that, and another 50 some odd countries that deals are in the process of being made to make up for the shortfall we're going to get with the States. But the thing is, it's the relationships between Canada and the United States is that we just drive things across the border. We don't need ships. You know what I mean? Some stuff might arrive from the States by ship, but most of it arrives from trucks. So the cost of everything in Canada will go up as well. Our dollar will probably spike. Which means we won't no longer be competitive to buy from. That hurts your dollar. That hurts your economy as well. That's why you need a strong economy from within. Canada does not have that. We don't make enough. The oil sands are really the only thing floating the country, and even at that, they're starting to see the losses. Not big losses, but it's not growing like you think it would. So QE3 that's the nail in the coffin. That's the death spiral. That's the American dollar about to die, and whether the collapse starts in Europe or starts in the States, it'll be trade-based. It's economic suicide with QE3. What they're saying is that we don't care about paying, the bill. We don't care how worthless the money is. We're just going to, keep it afloat. We're not going to make. I mean, they have to cut austerity, like major austerity. They have to do so much austerity in the States that it's going to, short of starting a civil war and uprisings. I mean, I don't know how they're going to do it. They've entitled too many people. Number one, they got to pull back their war machine. That would probably be half their budget right there. And then in the next 20, 30 years, the dollar has to collapse. They have no choice now. Now, whether a one world currency will come in out of this, I don't know. I hope not, because then the only reason why the Americans have made it so far is because they're on, their own currency. But you see, the UN, they don't want anybody to have any independence. They want to have a one world, total domination. But it'll backfire on them too, because, again, the uprisings. But I think they need to do what Iceland did. Iceland is kind of the world's role model right now. They're still going through growing pains, make no mistakes about it, but they let it collapse. They let their dollar fail. It's like, okay, well, you know what? Rather than bail out the bankers, we're just going to put the corrupt bankers in jail, change our banking laws, and, we'll take the hit and start over new. And that's what they've done. And yeah, there was growing pains, but now they're starting to rebound economically. So, hey, maybe the United States needs to do that, but every government worker is out of a job. The day of the collapse, every government worker is out of a job. That's what they don't understand. Is it might be a slow collapse, and then okay, we'll get rid of this department, that department, cut here, cut there. But an all-out collapse is everybody's out of a job, and that works in the public service is out of a job. Police officers, everything, none of them are getting paid. However, the other thing to keep in mind is with the ndaa and the NDRP, the military and law enforcement in the United States will have to follow orders without being paid, because it's already been accounted for that because they know the collapse is coming. Will it be all out in April? I don't know. We'll see. I mean, right now the markets are doing really, really well, but that's what always happens after you flood the money, the market with. It's just a cushion coming through. Once that cushion is through, then it's just, it's like, down. It's like up, down. So it will be bad for Canada. That's why Canada has to start manufacturing again. Never mind this outsourcing. We do got to start. Get rid of free trade and work cap trade. Work it out. I got another better solution. It's called even trade. So that you can compete with the slave labor or pick your country. I'm not for not outsourcing anything, but not at the loss of sovereignty and jobs of my country. And that's what the United States needs to start doing. You know, never mind this global economy thing. It's ridiculous and too big to fail, too complicated to work. But it will hurt Canada. Make no mistake, QE3 will hurt Canada. It's going to hurt the States probably more, but it will hurt Canada. That's why I've been telling people, put food away. But then I've been hearing about a collapse for the past 4 years. Yeah, this is year 4, or year 5. What are we in? Year 5, I guess. Year 4. But it's, you know, it's there. It's you know, it's a big economy, but it's going down. Obama can't see this. You know, this man is like completely he's so out of touch with reality. You know, when you get him off the teleprompter, you start understanding what kind of a man he is. He's a madman. I don't know if Romney's going to be any better. None of them have solution. The only thing they're going to have to do is cut and slash. It's like, this job's gone, that job's gone. People on food stamps, or not only are you going to lose your food stamps, but you're going to have to pay taxes too, you know, and more of them. Because even if they taxed everybody at 100% in the country, like they couldn't pay all the bills. There's no way to do it. So either you lower your cost of expense, or you collapse, and they're not doing either. So except for the collapse is coming. So I just can't give you the date and time, but Max Kizer's a pretty smart guy, and he hasn't been wrong so far. If he says April, I say put some food away, because you're probably going to not be able to buy it in April, because it's just going to be an all-out collapse, and that's going to really hinder your ability to buy food and other goods and services. So, yeah, there we go. Now, as far as Canada, we're in a bit better position, but again, we do 80% trade with the United States. There's no way that wouldn't put us into an instant recession, because the jobs will be cut here before they get cut there. Why? Because most of the manufacturing here is owned by the Americans. So that's what I'm talking about here in Canada. We need to, you know, never mind a spin-off company from the States, build it here. I have nothing against the States, but we need to take care of our people here. And I think getting awareness that the Americans have made some, you know, not the American people, but the American government has made some extremely bad decisions. Extremely bad, like, you know, and most people, well, this is nothing, I still got my job, but you won't. You know, like, when it starts hitting people in the pocket, that's when they're going to freak out. By that time, it's too late to play catch up and say, well, this is why it happened. Well, you got nothing prepared, so start with your food anyway. Put food away. That's the big one. Money, well, you're going to have to work at a barter and trade system somehow. So I guess I'll leave it at that, but yes, QE3 will affect Canada drastically. Even our Prime Minister, although he won't quite come out and say it exactly, he is putting out the warning signs saying, yeah, well, our economy is kind of a little bit fragile, so we have to be careful. And he won't comment on the QE3, and he won't comment on the American election. And but he'll say, well, they're doing things differently down there, hint, hint, wink, nudge, you know. So there is a warning there, make no mistake. So anyway, put food away. QE3 will affect Canada. QE3. What is QE3 and what does it mean for Canada? Okay, QE3 is not happening here in Canada. It is happening in the United States. And what is happening is basically, okay, let's say, to keep it as simple as possible, you owe the bank $1. But you don't have that dollar. You need to make more. You need to print another dollar. So in order to print that dollar to pay back the bank, what you need to do is print a second one. But in order to print the second one, that dollar now becomes 50 cents value, because it's taken down a peg. It's not worth as much. So you've got more money there to spread around, but it's worth less. And that's, I guess maybe it's not a great explanation, but that's kind of how it's going to happen. But because you still need to pay off that first dollar, you need to print $2, which again, you know, you can never get ahead of it. That's why it's a debt-based currency. So no matter how much you print, you can never take down the principal interest of the dollar that you bought, that you have to pay back in the first place. Plus, there's interest on top of that dollar. Arguably say 15 cents on every dollar. You can never, that 15 cents never gets to exist, because every dollar you print, there's that much more on top of it. It's a debt-based currency designed to collapse purposely. So QE3. Well, what is QE1? Well, QE1 is quantitative easing. Okay, what that means is, okay, their taxes can't cover their deficit, and it can't cover the bills to pay the government. Okay, taxes can't cover it, and the country's not producing enough. And when you have 47% of people on handouts and only 50% of the country not paying taxes, you know, because they're too poor, or they're only paying like 2% tax or something like that, when the 1%ers are paying 30%. You know, so, you know, when they say, well, they got the